After nearly 3 decades covering the Buffalo Bills, this guy knows what he's talking about. Welcome to Sal Speak, the place to be for hard-hitting analysis from Sal Maiorana of the Democrat and Chronicle.
Hello, everyone. I am Sal Maiorana. Welcome to DemocratandChronicle.com. This is the Sal Speak Facebook Live show. As always, I'm with my partner in crime, Leo Roth. It's Thursday afternoon, Leo, and we have a football game tonight to talk about. The Bills opened their preseason schedule at New Era Field against the Minnesota Vikings. They're not going to be at Fisher. No practice. We actually have things to watch. It's always good, Leo, when they finally the preseason games generally are not interesting.
You hate preseason football, so don't pretend you're looking forward to this game.
But I hate practice more. I hate watching practice more. At least something will be happening on the field tonight. You can measure guys and see how they're doing against other competition. So that's the good part of the preseason schedule starting. Give me a quick thought on that, if you like.
Well, and because it's the start of the Sean McDermott era, I think it is worth tuning in and kind of getting a little bit of feel about how it runs. And again, it's early, but now yesterday, this guy is so attention to detail. He's phenomenal, from the disc jockeys playing the music to the other day he was running substitutions, just a whole session just on getting guys in and out of the game.
Right.
That's being pretty particular. So it's nice to see that. And after what we saw with Rex Ryan's operation a little bit, especially last year. So, boy, if they can go into a game like today with 90 guys and coming in and out and how sloppy preseason can be, if it runs pretty well and they do everything pretty good looking, and I do expect that out of a McDermott team, and even at this early stage.
Yeah, you're right. 90 guys is a whole lot different than trying to sub packages during the regular season. There's a lot of guys they have to get through. A lot of different units are going back and forth, so it is a confusing time. It's probably a good thing he spent some time on that the other day in practice. All right, Leo, let's talk a little bit. Let's go to Fisher first. Let's get this out of the way. I did a little notebook item that actually became a pretty good talker because a lot of people were interested in it.
It struck a nerve with people.
There's a lot of people out of training camp who have really been disappointed with the experience this year, and I'll give you a quick explanation if you haven't been out there yet. First of all, as you know, or I think you know, it's much shorter this year. There's only 13 practices at camp, only one night practice. That was the very first night, and these 8:45 a.m. practices mean if you're going to go, you've got to get up pretty early to get out there, get to the shuttle bus at Pittsburgh-Mendon, and get to St. John Fisher. So it's been an uncomfortable aspect just from that. And now in this past week, Sean McDermott apparently is not happy with the condition of the main field, and he's moved practice, Leo, back to that secondary field off to the left, and it really provides almost no vantage point for fans to watch the practice. Because even the fans that do get over there and can stand around the fence, the players are on the sidelines. They really block your view, as opposed to if you're in the grandstand, you can see right over the players and see what's going on. I've heard a lot of people grumbling, Leo. They're not coming back. It's a pain. The Bills don't care about their fans.
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, and again, McDermott was already had irritated fans and the marketing department by having so few number to start with. Only one night practice, like you said, and then having all of the other ones starting at 8:45 a.m. And then he compounded his situation by, like you said, taking it on this little side field. It would be like the Sabres coming to Bill Gray's ice rink and being in instead of being in the big arena where 2,000 people can watch, having them go over to one of the side rinks where there are no stands and no one can see them.
Right.
So if I'm coming out now, you didn't even touch on the sponsors. The sponsors who have paid the money, plan to wine and dine clients, get something out of this whole business arrangement. Boom, the head coach decides. The people are there at 8 in the morning, no less, which is a bad enough convenience. And now they can't even. There's nothing even going on in front of them. So they're going to have to address some things. Now, you know what? I think you asked Sean particularly about this the other day. He keeps talking about the field conditions. I'm not really buying it. The field looks beautiful.
It does.
It looks like a fairway at Oak Hill. Yeah, did they wear on it? I mean, I don't even know if they've really worn it that much. They don't do two-a-days anymore.
No. Well, the thing is,
it got a little maybe wet. I don't know.
It has gotten worn a bit because remember, there's no practices in the stadium. There's nothing going on.
That's the point.
So this field hasn't had time to recuperate because they used it every day the first.
But instead of
week.
taking them, he always wants them on grass. So he refuses to use the turf field.
Right.
And that's a big, beautiful stadium where all kinds of people could watch.
Yeah, it's just been a really weird thing. I've never heard a coach, Leo, this is the 18th year at Fisher. I've never heard a coach complain about the condition of the grass fields at Fisher. They've always been beautiful. So I don't know if he's just a little bit too particular, maybe a little bit too paranoid about injury. Now the good news is nobody really has gotten hurt yet. I mean, that's been a good.
Yeah.
Nobody, like Reggie Ragland blew out his knee on that field last year.
Right.
But I think that's all circumstance. That is
Absolutely.
just unluckiness when you get an injury in a non-contact injury.
I'm going to tell you, I don't know what the figure is, but I would like to know how many thousands of dollars Fisher invests into that field, that grass field.
I bet it's a good, healthy
It's a
penny.
good, absolutely, and for them essentially to be criticized that the field's no good. They in their post-training camp powwow, a lot of powers that be got to sit down and work this thing out and see where it's going. And again, this will tie into when the camp kicked off. How happy are they? How long they staying? Maybe McDermott, hey, my opinion was that this is the sign of the end.
Right.
Certainly McDermott might have said all the right things on day one, but all his actions since then say what I felt all along.
Yeah. Now I've talked. It's funny you brought that up. I'm going to be writing a story about this next week when camp ends. And I just talked to President Rooney today, the Fisher College president. I've talked to Greg Connors, the title sponsor, Russ Brandon, talked to him about that issue. Are the Bills going to be leaving Fisher? And unanimously, Leo, again, like you said, they could say whatever they want now and then change their mind later. But right now, there are no indications, I'm quoting President Rooney here, there are no indications that the Bills are going to leave, at least before that contract expires, which is in 2021. And I tend to agree with that. I really don't think they're going to just bag it and not go back to Fisher. But I think when that contract's up, it's very much in play. So this might be the last few years the Bills are going to be there. I just hope the fan experience is going to be better than the one they've had this year. Somebody brought it up, Leo. What the Bills should do, they really should put like a text alert or some kind of alert to fans. Get it out there somehow, some way, where they're going to practice on each day. Like if he knew ahead of time they were going to be on that side field, people should know about that ahead of time and be warned that you might not be able to see much of practice. It's not just Rochester people. People are coming in from Syracuse, Ithaca, Binghamton. Who else knows where? This is a regional franchise. People are driving a long way. I'll tell you, Sunday afternoon, that was a bad scene out there. They had a huge crowd on a Sunday afternoon, and he spent probably 2/3 of the practice and all of the 11-on-11 team stuff was on the side field. And there are people in the grandstand like,
and this is,
what's going on here?
And this is scripted out for him. He does this, he changes
he knows,
it,
exactly.
but he knows 24 hours ahead of time, maybe before that even. And, hey, it's, I believe President Rooney saying, hey, all systems go, but you know what they say, the president's the last to know.
Yeah, exactly.
So, isn't that what they say?
The real president, I hope he's not the last one to know.
I'm just saying,
after all he said
maybe
this week.
McDermott is just really, do you think he's just really uncomfortable that all these people are watching and he likes to go to the side?
I don't know if that's the case or not.
How was it? Let me ask you this. I wasn't over there last Friday. How was the night practice in Buffalo? The weather impacted things.
I didn't get there.
Oh, you didn't get there because of the traffic.
There was an accident on Thruway, and I bagged it. I couldn't go. It ended up they didn't have a big crowd because the weather was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a major storm. That's one of the reasons why I didn't go. I thought they were going to cancel it.
Right.
So they had a reasonably small crowd.
The next
which
day
was disappointing.
They practiced the next day, but that was a closed thing.
Right.
Correct.
Yes, I think so. So. Anyways, I'm sure hardcore football fans are done with this issue. Yeah. But I wanted to bring it up on Facebook Live in the podcast.
And listen, for personally and for the media, whatever, we don't care if they're practicing on a parking lot on the moon.
Exactly. For us, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But
we have access to it.
But the Bills are the one that created this big marketing metropolis, megalopolis, this big living beast for the last 20 years. Churning out all this money and regionalizing the franchise. Yeah. They're the ones that are telling us, how important it is. Well, it's so important that they've really made it a disappointing experience for the very sponsors and fans that they say they care about.
Right. All right, let's move on to the team itself. The game tonight, 7 o'clock. I think it's on Channel 13 live, I believe, right? It's a live broadcast now because there's no more blackout rules. So
I'm going to be at a baseball game, so I don't know.
Won't even be there. So it will be on TV tonight. A few things that I want to watch for, that I will be watching for, and you won't apparently. Going to a baseball game. Now you're going to a baseball game?
I have to go to the Red Wings. I'm sorry.
Oh, you have to work?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you're off the hook then. It was a work thing. Number one, I want to see Nathan Peterman against live competition. Now, I wrote today in my thing this morning, he's not pushing Tyrod Taylor, and neither is TJ Yates, by the way.
But he'll get the whole probably second half, won't he?
Well, I would think, right? But Yates is a veteran. He'll probably play the second
need?
quarter. I want to see Nathan Peterman live. I've liked what I've seen from him out at camp. He's a rookie. It's very obvious. He's a fifth-round pick for many reasons. But, he's going to be a guy that I think will be on the roster for a few years here. And who knows? If he shows some progress over this next year, and depending on what Tyrod Taylor does this year, you could be looking at 2018 as Nathan Peterman competing to be the starter. So it starts tonight for him. I want to see what he can do.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with the starter. I want to see Tyrod Taylor in the quarter of work he gets. I want to see him drop back and throw the ball like he's got a purpose. I don't want to see him burping the ball. I don't want to see him running, which he won't in preseason. I'm sure they told him that. Yeah. What are you doing? I want to see him look like a quarterback. I want to see if he is any different at all. I know it's early and there'll be 3 more games after this, but I think everybody wants to see that.
Well, I think the issue there, though, is they're not going to do anything with him. It's going to be
very bland, blah. But I think you can drop back and throw the ball instantly.
True.
Instantly.
I agree with that.
Not even thinking about it, just on a dump-off.
All right, I get that.
Something like that.
The reason I brought up Peterman is because Peterman will have something to prove. He's the new guy. Tyrod, it's going to be very vanilla.
So what? I guess we're going to have to wait till week 1 against the Jets to really start evaluating
possibly,
Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, I've never used preseason games to evaluate much of anything, especially a quarterback. So, I'm not going to worry about Tyrod until the bell rings. Mm-hmm. That's when it counts. This doesn't count right now. So, for Peterman, this is an area or a time of the year where he has to show something and prove
I agree
he was a fifth-round pick for a reason. Well, prove you're better, and he's got to do that. TJ Yates, I'm not even all that concerned about him.
No.
I don't really care what he does either. He'll probably be the backup quarterback.
They could have signed Yates the first week of the season.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about him.
For his job.
I want to see what Peterman does. Yeah. Now, another guy.
The other thing is the rookies, though. Are you going to?
Zay,
you want to see Zay Jones play. You want to see Trey White cover somebody.
Tre'Davious White. It'll be interesting. And I wrote this morning too. I think he's going to start. He's been with the ones most of the training camp. McDermott said starters will probably play about a quarter. I hope that doesn't include White. I hope White is going to play more than a quarter because this kid needs to get, he needs to get his feet wet. So I want to see what he does against live competition. And the other guy is Zay Jones. Zay Jones has looked really good so far, but he's going against the same DBs every day. I want to see him be able to read a coverage when he's in the pattern, figure out what he's supposed to do and get it done, and obviously catch the ball if it comes his way. And also, I want to watch him, if they're going to do some running plays, is he going to be a willing blocker downfield? Because the guy he's replacing, Robert Woods, was very good at that.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why the Bills ran the ball so well. So those are 2 things I'll be looking for from Zay Jones.
Right, and then of course it gets back to the quarterbacks and, how effective are they going to be with no really game plan and all that good stuff. So again, but you can tell some little things that you're talking about, and especially if you're able to break it down afterwards. But I don't want to see Trey White get beat on a bomb right off the first play.
That wouldn't be good.
Or something like that. Something you want to see him really get in there, get his nose dirty, and starting his NFL life and see what they got there, because the depth chart's out and he's on it and he's the starter. And the other in fact, all the depth chart, it was interesting. Nothing's really changed very much from what we thought going into camp. It's exactly what we thought.
Yeah.
Preston Brown's the middle linebacker, and Jordan Mills is the right tackle, and Andre Holmes now is starting opposite Sammy Watkins, so that's the veteran there. I don't expect. We didn't talk about Anquan Bolden signing this week, which was big news.
Right.
He's not going to. I don't think he'll ever be the starter on. Well, I don't think he'll be a starter any time of the year. I think.
If they open 3 wide, he'll start.
Yeah,
which they might do.
Well, I'm talking about 1 or 2.
Right.
The 1 or 2 is going to be either Holmes or Zay Jones, I would think. So.
Well, you would think.
And Bolden's going to be, but Bolden. I mean, I'm excited about the Bolden pick.
I am. I am. Yeah, we probably should hit that real quick. I mean, it was kind of in the works for a while. I'm a little bit surprised that, and again, we don't really know what the background was. I thought he would have maybe more interest from a few other teams, and maybe he did, and he chose the Bills. But I had thought all along, once he left Buffalo after the original visit, it just seemed to me he was going to look for a place to fall on a why come to Buffalo? This team's not going to the playoffs. So I was surprised by that. But hey, whatever recruitment tool they used, they got him to come here.
And apparently he's got family in Buffalo and Rochester.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I'll have to find out who that is.
We'll have to find out down the road what that's about. But maybe they did a little recruiting themselves, which helped. And I give Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott credit. I mean, this is a feather in their cap. They were able to impress this guy. He's a future Hall of Famer. When it's all said and done here, Sal, the Bills will have James Lofton, Terrell Owens, Anquan Bolden. They all brought him in, all in the Hall of Fame.
Wow, no, really?
T.O.'s not there yet, but he will be.
He will be.
And Bolden will be. So and Lofton is. So they had a homegrown Andre Reed. 4 receivers in the Hall of Fame.
I know. Let me get to a couple things here. There's somebody on here I'm not even going to acknowledge because he's just an idiot. So we'll just skip through all of his comments. J.J. Franklin is the guy we were going to bring up too. He wants to see Deion Dawkins. Deion Dawkins was the second-round pick they drafted or traded up into the second round to get this kid.
Right.
I'll tell you what, Leo.
Yeah, we didn't mention him. Good point.
I've watched him in camp a little bit. He has not impressed me yet.
No.
Like Zay Jones, you can see things certainly. Trey White for sure. I've even liked a few of the things I've seen from Peterman. Deion Dawkins to me right now looks like just kind of a guy.
Looks like a guy.
He kind of fits in with all the other guys they have there on the offensive line, the backups. I'll be curious to see what he does because right now, Jordan Mills has not been good in camp. He's been having a tough time too. But I can't imagine that Deion Dawkins would start opening day the way he's looked to me in training camp over Jordan Mills.
It's early, way early. But there's a guy like, I mean, when the Bills got Miller, the kid started.
Yeah.
So and that was he was second rounder too, right?
He was a third rounder.
Third rounder.
Yep.
So here was a guy that that was sometimes you can tell right away with linemen if they can walk right in if they're good.
Yeah.
And they say.
He just looks like I don't know.
I think he's
He just doesn't look. I mean, physically he's a big guy, but I don't know. I just felt like when I saw him in pads, he would be a more imposing looking player. And I can't really see him. I can see him as a guard, the way he looks on the field. I don't really see him as a right tackle.
I don't see him as a tackle either. And,
I know. I don't know what they're going to do. Hopefully we're amateurs. We don't know.
It's kind of funny when you watch.
Really
it's kind of funny when I like when you see when they do put on the pads like you mentioned. And you see Eric Wood. We'll be walking down, say, outside the locker room, and they're just walking by you, and Richie Incognito.
Yeah, these guys are massive.
These guys are, they're not. These guys aren't fat people. They're big, just scare the daylights out of you. They are big, mean men.
Well, Incognito scares the daylight. Eric.
Eric
with his curly hair and
Richie definitely scares the crap out of you.
Happy face doesn't scare me, but Incognito could scare you.
Yeah. But they're. They move. They're so athletic. The linemen, the great linemen today, are so athletic, and they're not the big old. It's not the 1970s anymore. And of course, back then they were the Jim Richards of the world,
250-pound
who were
guys.
250 and real athletic too. So
I wrote about this guy today. Gregory Paul wants to know Jonathan Williams needs to solidify that spot in the backfield. Absolutely, that's another guy we should be watching tonight.
It's it's like all preseason. It's a backup game. Yeah. Everyone, you're watching the 2s and the 3s.
Like you said, the depth chart came out, and there really weren't any surprises. We kind of knew who the starters were going to be. This team is woefully thin at many positions behind the starters, so that's what preseason is going to be all about: is figuring out who's going to be able to slot in as the backups. Jonathan Williams, look, Carlos Williams was a 5th-round pick in 2015. Stepped right in, did a great job. Went into knucklehead mode and got cut from the team. Mike Gillislee steps in last year. I'm not even sure if he was I think he was drafted by Miami maybe, I forget. But a mid to low round guy, stepped right in for the Bills, had a terrific year as LaShawn McCoy's backup. Now it's Jonathan. You can just keep churning these guys over and over and over. And Jonathan Williams, he's got a pretty good legacy to hold up here because those two guys did a great job. I think he's capable of it. The kid played really well at Arkansas before he got hurt and lost his whole senior year. Last season, with Gillislee doing so well, he got very few touches. I think the kid's fine.
I think
he'll be good.
Yeah, I think he's a good back, and but the reader's correct. That's a guy to watch, and he should get a decent amount of work.
I would hope so. McCoy's 29 years old. Yeah. They've got to have somebody behind him. Again.
McCoy won't have a carry. I don't. He won't.
No, I don't. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
he might have.
He might have one,
but he's not going to be in there long for sure. All right, let's talk about a couple other guys, Leo, that I mentioned in my thing this morning. Adolphus Washington is a guy that needs to do something too. Now remember, he was drafted by Rex Ryan in that 3-4 defense, and now he's got to play in a 4-3. And again, I really struggle sometimes to figure out what the big difference is, what the big deal is. But with moving like a foot or two over, what really changes on the inside. But they claim that there are different responsibilities. He's a guy after the arrest in early July.
He's got to get it.
He's got to get it together. You know, I thought last year, Leo. I did not think. I don't know what you feel. He underwhelmed me last year when he got the chance to play. I didn't see a whole lot from him, and Shaq Lawson had an excuse. He was hurt. I didn't see much from Washington, and I thought coming into this year he'd have to do something to solidify
he played
his spot.
a decent. Well, I'd have to look it up, but he played a decent amount.
He did play a decent amount because they rotate linemen pretty frequently.
And again, and I think you've hit it on the head. You're trying to judge him now in a whole different scheme and seeing if he can. He was drafted for a whole different plan.
Right.
So a guy like him, and he being young, they weren't going to get rid of him, but he's got to show something.
Right.
And they need depth, and Kyle Williams, isn't getting younger, so they need to have a lot of rotate. They need to have a lot of rotation, and Darius,
you
never know when he's going to go down again.
Exactly.
And so they definitely need Washington to be, really, they need him to be really, I'm not saying as good, but he's got to be.
The level of play can't drop off dramatically. You've got to have guys that can play.
He needs to be right there with those two guys, and those guys are going to need some spotting.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt, both of them.
Another guy that Greg Munson brings up here, he says, I'm interested in watching Logan Thomas at tight end. Yep, another guy that's going to be very intriguing.
That's your boy, yeah.
Yes, I wrote about him the first week of camp. This guy, Leo, he's got that prototypical body for the 21st century tight end. He's the kind of guy the Bills just have never had in their offense. Like a big 6'6", 250-pound athlete. This guy is an athlete who can move. He was a quarterback in college.
If they looked into a guy like this, that would be something. They need that. They need to.
It was interesting. Last year he was bouncing around. He was with, I think, the Broncos briefly as a quarterback. They cut him. He ended up going to Detroit, and they brought him in to look at him as a quarterback. This was like in November, I believe. But they were the team that said, hey, we want you to run some routes. Yeah. So he ran some routes. They signed him to the practice squad. The Bills signed him off the practice squad 36 hours later. Wow. So the Bills people, last year's regime, they were onto this guy as a potential candidate. Now, I don't know if that's Tyrod Taylor in there saying, hey, give this guy a look because they were teammates. But the Bills brought him in as soon as he got signed by the Lions to come onto their team. They've put him in at tight end this year. The big thing with him, Leo, is can he block? That's going to be the determining factor. I think the kid can get downfield and make catches. Will he be able to block? Right now, I think he's got the inside track to be the third guy. I mean, Nick O'Leary will make the team behind Charles Clay.
Yeah, and O'Leary's, we haven't mentioned him to all camp, but he's had a nice camp. He catches everything.
He does.
And he can block, and he's rugged, and he's played, and that's his position.
He's come a long way.
He has come a real long way.
I thought he was a guy that I thought, even though he was their draft pick, I thought he was going to get cut his rookie year. He did nothing that first training camp.
Jack Nicklaus is a grandson, of course, and he's a good kid, and he's just a guy you want to root for. And Charles Clay, of course, we're not, again, no judgments tonight because of, he's the starter and all that, but he's been hampered all camp, and you're wondering when this guy is going to really reach his full potential.
So I'm not sure at this point he's ever going to.
I know, and it's a tough thing. If it doesn't work out and it's teetering there, that's going to go down as a Doug Whaley
that's a bad
move
contract.
That did not work out. It was a big money. And they went and got him, and at the time, you applaud him for being aggressive because Clay was coming on. He was with Miami. He was a guy I really liked him when they grabbed him. I said, hey, and they gave him the big offer sheet.
Well, he was the kind of guy I just mentioned. Logan Thomas. He was the kind of guy you thought this is the kind of tight end the Bills
needed.
Yeah, a guy who can catch the ball downfield, stretch the seam.
Now in his defense, he walked into a disastrous quarterback situation. Who's throwing him the ball? God Almighty. So once they. Everybody needs the quarterback, but there's three good, interesting all interesting guys at tight end.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
It's an interesting position to watch for sure. All right, we'll wrap it up here in a couple minutes. Leo, you got any further thoughts on what you've seen? Has anything caught your eye in the 2 weeks they've been here? Maybe surprised you? Do you have anything that stands out in your head that maybe you weren't expecting coming into camp?
Mostly, but I think anytime there's a new coach, he's gobbling up a lot of the attention, and you're watching all the little things they do. And I'm impressed with McDermott because he's this is his first go around as the head guy, and aside from his angering the fan base,
yeah.
He runs the practices really clip along, and he knows what he wants. He's got it all. He's clearly in charge. I mean, and that's a good thing that you want to see, is that this guy commands the room, and all the players that I've talked to, they all got great things to say, and I think that's it's wrapping up faster. They're going to be here Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and that's going to be it. And then they go back and they'll be behind closed doors, even to the media. They're not going to watch the whole practices anymore. So, but I think in general the camp, it was definitely the camp had for the 18 that we've experienced here, Sal, definitely a different feel all the way around. Whether it was from the blaring music constantly, or the way it was set up, to how it was in early mornings, as opposed to the nighttime.
Yeah.
Rex's personality compared to to a more reserved McDermott, who really didn't even talk every day. He threw his coordinators out there,
which was nice.
An awful lot.
Get different perspective,
which is a lot of head coaches
last 2 years it was Rex Ryan's voice, and that was it. So
Rex would have had 3 news conferences a day if he was asked.
Yeah.
So to me it just had that it's just a feel that you have when you're there.
Okay.
That's all.
I'll end it on this. The one thing that surprised me so far, and we probably should have mentioned this guy during the show at some point, was Reggie Ragland. He got third-team reps this week, Leo.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the future holds for this kid. Second-round pick last year. He blew his knee out. He was a good fit for Rex Ryan's defense, which is why they drafted him. I don't know. There's been some rumors this week that maybe they'll think about trading him because he doesn't really fit in this defense. But, what are you going to do? You're going to trade this guy at this point of his career and give up on him already? I think that would be foolhardy. You're not going to get any value. The kid's coming off a major injury.
I wouldn't be trading.
I would hold on to him, give him some time. He's still basically recovering from the surgery. He's not up to 100% capacity yet. So
yeah.
I think people should pump the brakes on Reggie Ragland, give the kid a chance to figure things out physically and, of course, mentally, figuring out the new defense and how he fits in it. You've got a guy in Preston Brown who's, again, I think Preston Brown's kind of a mediocrity, but he's an NFL player. He's his 4th year in the league. He's played a lot of snaps. You're okay with him as your middle linebacker until Ragland hopefully makes a push and does something. I wouldn't trade the kid.
A big theme here going in too, Sal, was that everyone expects this defense is going to be better just because it's a 4-3, fits the personnel. McDermott's going to be highly organized. They're really going to have their act together, But it comes down to players, and if they don't have some stud linebackers, it's not going to work.
And I'm not sure they have any stud. I mean, Lorenzo Alexander, great guy, but he's 33 years old, playing an outside linebacker spot. Remember last year, he pretty much was a pass rusher. Now he's got to play against the run, drop in coverage. That's a little bit of a different responsibility for a 33-year-old. The other side, I mean, you flip a coin. Hodges, Humber, all these guys you never heard of.
The guy in the middle, though, he's got to be
the signal caller,
Hall of Fame quality guy to really be a dominant defense.
Let's put it this way: McDermott had Luke Kuechly in that position last year. It's a big drop off to Preston Brown.
Yeah, so we're, you got to have so there's a little cautious. Got to be cautious about just assuming that this defense is fixed.
Yep.
So.
All right, well, they kick it off tonight, 7 o'clock, Bills and Vikings at New Era Field. Leo and I will be back, actually, maybe not next week. I'm on vacation next week, so there may be a little hiatus for the Sal Speak show. Are you disappointed? I'm sure you are. Maybe you could run the show and call it Leo Speak for a week. What do you think about that?
No, my show would be the gripes of Roth.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You only did that a couple times.
Yeah, well,
you need to revive that. Come on, get with the program.
I don't know. The podcasts don't seem to be working.
Well, that's because you only did 2.
You're on the cutting edge here. So.
Yeah, cutting edge. All right. Well,
I'd rather just ride your coattails.
Okay, very good. All right, folks. Enjoy the game if you go out there tonight, and we will talk to you at some point here coming up before the regular season starts. For Leo, I'm Sal. Have a great day.